Expectations are a funny old thing. Here we go then. Could summarize the attitude I went into this episode with. I didn't really enjoy Vinay Patel's episode that he wrote for the previous series and was expecting a butchery of the JUDOON just like the Dalek last year. However, with the bar being set so low after Orphan 55, it's easy to want an episode to be good above whether it is actually good. After all, I think the producers are probably laughing all the way to the bank right now. They made the worst episode of Doctor Who ever. It got memed to shit by the community, and boom, you have the perfect marketing campaign to get people to watch Doctor Who again. This is why I try to get a good understanding of the episode by giving it a second viewing, where I compile my notes and make those into an essay. Within this essay, I shall analyse and adjudicate on whether this episode is the best thing since Blink, or if it's more run-of-the-mill Chibnall-era dribble. The episode begins with an introduction to Ruth, a super friendly individual who had me interested from the offset. She presents humbleness and adult relatability, and that she doesn't expect birthday presents from her husband and just wants cake. It was nice that they set up the husband Lee to be this man with a secret, only to find out he was just the Doctor's companion during the Ruth incarnation, turning him from suspected villain to hero by the end. The episode had a fantastic setting too. I've never been to Gloucester myself, but the location tied into Ruth's character as a tour guide. I felt as though I was rooting for her because nobody wanted to go on her tour, when I think most in the audience, aside from those that actually live in Gloucester, would love to hear all about the place. The episode reminded me more of The Woman Who Fell to Earth than anything else, just because they explored a place in the UK I know very little about. Even the little factoid about King Henry III sounds like something a Time Lord would know about, and makes her appear quite sweet. Then this old granny talks to her like they're both there all the time, and her interruption genuinely made me laugh out loud. And then we meet this cafe bloke, Alan, who can't even make a coffee pattern, whose inclusion I really liked too. As a character goes, he's not bad. It reinforced the idea of Lee being a weirdo, but of course this dossier that Alan produces makes him look just as strange. It's sad that this moment is greeted with really intense music that felt quite out of place. The humour is spoilt by the music, as though we didn't pick up on the strange look Lee gave Ruth as she left the flat. Fortunately, this is the only time the music lets up, because the rest of the episode's score is nothing short of fantastic. For the more dramatic moments, it built up nicely and definitely added to the strangeness of the events that unfolded. The best thing about these opening scenes is that it feels very Broadchurch. This seemingly peaceful city gets turned upside down with the arrival of a higher grade police force for a crime that's taken place here. This is exactly the sort of scenario I was hoping for when speculating about Series 11. Unfortunately though, they jump from JUDOON ship to TARDIS and back to Earth again, and it all felt a little difficult to piece together at first. They honestly could have cut these opening scenes in the JUDOON ship because they don't really serve any narrative function, and even the gang having to get all the catch up about the Master's voicemail felt rather pointless too. It would have been nice if the gang were just in Gloucester and suddenly the JUDOON showed up, but on the other hand I did like how the Doctor got notified that the JUDOON were on Earth by having these blue and red lights flash inside the TARDIS. The JUDOON invasion itself was pretty weird to watch. Not only do they show the exact same exterior shot of the JUDOON ship 4 times in this episode, but it was a little too familiar for my liking. They did the same stamping and cataloguing thing that they did on the moon nearly 13 years ago. And when they gave the old lady that leaflet, I knew the JUDOON was just going to say the word compensation. I was even going to question why they needed a super powerful perimeter that instantly kills people, but it stopped Benny 2.0 dead in its tracks and proved just how trigger happy the JUDOON are. From here, things get flipping marvellous. I loved that moment with the "you could do better" cake. What a savage baker. Alan obviously hasn't read Good Coffee Making Skills for Millennials, but can make quite the impactful cake.
I'm gonna say you that's the worst cake I've ever seen.
This bit had me in stitches. The dossier got purpose as well, and I kind of wish they hadn't killed Alan off, because not only did a similar scenario happen in Smith & Jones, but he was a character with a bit of spark to him. Strangely, his death felt rather deserved too though. Clinging on to a married woman and the one time he stands up for himself just results in instant death Sad. This confrontation the Doctor and co have with the Judoon was great as well. Ryan got a great line about them being imperially regulated. Even the Doctor's fumbling and impromptu knowledge of space lore really worked for her character, and Yaz, the policewoman getting to see what interstellar police are like, created some great responses from her this week. Just when I couldn't be happier that the companions are proving to be on point this episode, one of the best companions in the show ever shows up. Captain Jack? Yes, please. Oh, I totally loved his introduction.
You can get excited now. You miss me, right?
I was practically beaming to see him again. I'm not sure if they're trying to reboot Torchwood or something. That was, after all, Chibnall's first writing job on anything Doctor Who related, so I'm fine with his inclusion. 'Twas very fitting. Even Graham being mistaken for the Doctor again worked to great comedic effect. The ship set looks pretty terrible, but this line here
Doesn't even have a bar.
justified its bland appearance. Jack going off on tangents about how he got his Quanticum scoop was wonderful too.
Woo! That was a night. Actually, that was a month.
And he livened the episode up so much, but unfortunately felt a little bit purposeless. At first I thought he had stolen a Judoon ship, which would have at least connected him to the story in some way, but they turn out to be the reason he couldn't scoop up the Doctor. The longer his scenes went on for, the more pointless he began to feel. Was Jack's inclusion just a teaser for the Cybermen? I mean, at least he didn't force himself into the companionship like every other time he shows up in the show, but it felt like quite the distraction from the Judoon thing that had my full attention. Back to that, the sequence in the flat was really great. The Doctor's essentially in to negotiate with two hostages now, both at first glance appearing very guilty about something. I really liked that the companions searched the house and Yaz found the secret box too. The withdrawal of information in this episode was great, as we're kept in the dark about so much stuff. Even the sonic screwdriver is no help at identifying who this couple are at first.
Doesn't time fly when you don't have all the answers?
It was interesting that the box would inevitably be a red herring and didn't actually bring us any closer to identifying Lee's species.
What's in the box, Lee?
What's in the fucking box?
The mini Judoon warning bomb thing was really amusing too, especially because of its size and made for great comedy. The moments in the cathedral were a bit hit and miss for me, but it was mostly great. It has a bit of a cringy setup, but results in an awesome turnaround that I wasn't expecting at all. How the reveal of Ruth being the fugitive suddenly turned into a fight sequence which results in her pulling off the Judoon captain's horn felt really kick-ass. It felt like them killing Lee was cutting off the Hydra's head, and now three have grown in its place. Even this shot of Ruth carries quite the punch. Now that the fugitive's identity is supposedly revealed, there appears to be two sides to her, indicated by the gigantic mirror placed behind her. This was a really great moment as well, with the Doctor, like us, being unable to figure out what's going on, whilst Ruth has this psychotic breakdown, feeling like she's no longer in control of her own body. The only problem really appeared in the form of the lighthouse image appearing before her eyes. It annoyed me because not only did it flash up earlier, but we get to see the lighthouse anyway, and her dialogue gave us all the information we needed. Even the sound of seagulls and waves crashing was a really nice addition. It's just the image superimposed over the top that didn't look very good at all. And now that the nitpicks are out of the way, it picked itself up again when the pair drive to the lighthouse. What started as a beautiful birthday has now completely changed for Ruth, and we get to hear her reflect on her feelings about it all. She had parents that she rebelled against, and is now going back to where they are buried, or so she thinks. There's this lovely labyrinthian feel to all this. The answers to the problem lie at the center of Ruth's mind. When they get there, my god, there are some beautiful shots of the Doctor at the top of the lighthouse. The shots accentuate her thought process. The way it spins dizzily induces this feeling of unease and confusion into the viewer. Then suddenly the TARDIS is found buried outside, and I was just perpetually wondering what the hell was going on and what would happen next. Ruth is the Doctor?
Say what?
It's the whole Fobwatch thing, but this time it's hidden in a lighthouse?
Absolutely fantastic.
What a twist. The episode pulls this moment off so incredibly, and then everything starts falling into place, and yet still more questions need answering. When in the Doctor's timeline is this? An early regeneration long forgotten? The pair arguing with each other and speaking in unison was great. This throws a spanner into the works, not just for Series 12, but for every single single episode we have seen thus far. As they arrive on the JUDOON ship, the Doctor temporarily becomes Ruth's companion in the eyes of Gat, which felt so unique and strange. Of course, this couldn't hold up for long because the JUDOON captain is there. It builds itself up so wonderfully, with the Doctor getting so sick of everyone belittling her, which made her outburst feel totally deserved. She starts radiating confidence, and I love it! Our Doctor, the one we've known for so many years, completely outsmarts both of them because of her knowledge, experience, and most of all, age. With scripts as good as this, Jodie's performance is able to flourish. She may, in fact, not be the first female regeneration, which is going to undercut her entire outlook on the world. If she doesn't understand her past, how can she understand herself? No doubt the pair will meet again and we can get an answer. So now, I have 2 more reasons to keep watching. The Doctor's facial expression when she returns to Earth says it all. She genuinely looks distracted and confused, and the episode concludes, amazingly, with the Doctor now on the steps with the gang all talking down to her, the reverse of how we saw them at the start of the episode. The secrets are now coming out, and she's not going to be able to hide her past for much longer from the gang. What a setup for episodes to come, and it feels so rewarding as well that her companions are supporting her in this troubled time. This idea that time is swirling around her was fantastic, and it now feels like a genuine burden for her. And Ryan, standing up to her for being such a miserable git, was a really well written and performed moment too. Graham's "we'll be right here by your side" speech was really heartwarming too. Even the TARDIS was like, yeah, come on, let's get back to adventuring, because there now seems to be a gateway for redemption in this show. After 4 total letdown stories, this one feels like it's steering the show back on course. Let's just hope that these 3 events on Earth that the episode leaves us with are significant and don't just provide us with more filler before the finale. So, did it suck? No! My god, does it feel good to say no this week. This episode had a bit of a rocky start, but it just got better and better as it went on. The companions felt like companions. The Doctor felt like the Doctor. There are some amazing characters in this story, whether short-lived or ambiguous, all had a role to play. The episode was so familiar and yet such a mystery at the same time. The settings and locations felt purposeful, and despite Jack being a little pointless, I am welcoming of his return. The mystery of the story kept me hooked, and there are just so many memorable moments too. Everyone performs fantastically, but I think Jodie really stole the show for me this week thanks to this wonderful script. Most of the problems with this story are fairly minimal and nitpicky, with the rest of this incredible story blowing those doubts to smithereens. This has got to be the best episode of the era thus far, and I've got my fingers crossed that we get more quality episodes like this one in the future. I give Fugitive of the JUDOON an 8.5 out of 10. Thanks for watching. Well, that's my ultimatum out the window. Better start supporting me on Patreon, guys, because my workload for the next few weeks has just doubled. What do you think of this episode? Leave a comment below or join my Discord server, where we'll continue this discussion.